you. Thank you. I apologize for the technology snafu. But anyway, thank you for asking me. Next time we'll have to have a new computer or 5 Sandra Kellys. I'm telling you, we couldn't do it without her. The cookies that when I said holiday cookies, I knew I had to get some cookies made to bring to many of the families for the exchange here, and also to get started with the whole holiday baking. I chose today to do 4 different kinds of cookies, and probably 2 will all bake together, and then I'll refer you. And the reason I chose these cookies is they have very few ingredients, 4 or 5 ingredients that tend to be in your kitchen cabinets. They can be packed easily for shipping. And I have a very favorite shipping box from the post office. It's the flat rate, and it's the one that comes together and looks like a book. And the reason I use that for some of the cookies that I'm now going to be going through is that if I want to send a Christmas card to, let's say, my 92-year-old aunt, I'd rather send her a small box of cookies, which are so appreciated, with a Christmas card in it. So I sort of focused on good cookies, small enough to ship, probably a dozen and a half for the box. The box costs $9.25 at the post office. You bring it home, you get your cookies in it, and we'll talk more about how to do that. The tape is on there, back to the post office you go, and those boxes ship very quickly. I sent one to my grandson at the University of Nebraska for his birthday, the end of November. It got to him in 2 days. So it's not your usual shipping. So enough about shipping, and let's tell you what I'm planning to do and why. I was telling Sandra, after the family all left after Thanksgiving, I found in different places where they had their kitchen, they bring special things for the kids, in addition, of course, to all the meals we were serving. Every one of them brought a jar of peanut butter. Everyone left their jars of peanut butter here. And it's not that we don't have peanut butter. So here you'll see on my kitchen counter 4 jars of peanut butter. And one of the cookies, the first one that we're going to be making, is called Christmas Crack. I don't know how many of you have heard of Christmas Crack. It's a cookie that generally starts out with either a graham cracker or a saltine, but I went and found a special one that also has, you can make them with just brown sugar, pecans, graham crackers, but I chose to make them with saltines because I love the combination of saltines, of salt, and chocolate. Most people won't even know that that's the base of the cookie. So let's go on over here to the stove. This recipe, by the way, can be found in a online, if you want to put this down, called bromabakery.com. Broma, B-R-O-M-A, bakery.com, if you're looking for this particular recipe. There are a lot of recipes in there for a Christmas crack, but this one uses the peanut butter, peanuts, chocolate. It's very easy to make. It's very transportable, and all the ingredients may be in your cabinet. If you don't have saltines or the Keebler cracker, any kind of a salted cracker, even Ritz would do. And the other nice thing about it is that every serving of this sort of decadent cookie packs 8 grams of protein, 2 grams of fiber, 12 grams of unsaturated fat, and I won't tell you what the calorie count is because I didn't hear. That's all the health I need from this cookie. All right, in my pan here, I've got 2 sticks of sweet butter. Now, I just happen to have the butter available, but I would have used regular butter if I only had butter regular. So the first thing that I did was, and I'm going to bring this over. Here's all my peanut butter jars, just to tell you why I chose this. I lined a cookie sheet with saltine crackers. Okay. And they're all the plain salted crackers. I took 2 sticks of butter and 1 cup of sugar, which is right here. Just granulated sugar, dump it in and start stirring. And always, the one thing they mentioned that I had never read before is when you're doing a sugar butter emulsion, always stir it going in the same direction through the entire process. If not, the butter and the sugar will separate out, which I thought, well, that is a very good thing to stress. So you stir this, well, probably for about 5 minutes. Now they tell you to either use a thermometer, just a kitchen thermometer. Let me see, I didn't get that out. I thought I had everything. My handy thermometer right here. And you stir this until it gets to, I believe it's 280 degrees. Or if it comes into a ball. So it's here in the pan, I've got a cup of granulated sugar, a cup of unsalted butter. I didn't put, half a teaspoon of salt. I put that in parentheses because I thought I was going to use salted, but I'm not. So half a teaspoon of salt. Notice I don't always use the proper measuring, and I'm always stirring this, always stirring it until it begins to get golden brown and becomes like a toffee mix. So, all right. While I'm doing this, and unfortunately you have to keep stirring. You can't go away from it or you'll get a burnt mix in a pan that you may have to throw away. Following this getting brown, after I continue to stir it and bring it to 280 degrees, I'll take it off the heat for a few minutes. Then I'm going to pour this toffee mix over the saltines and let it sit for just a few minutes. Wait until it cools down just a wee bit. Put that in the oven to make sure it's melted. Cover it with peanut butter. And you put dobs of peanut butter, that'll all melt, and then chocolate, and sprinkle it with peanuts. And it may sound, if you've never had Christmas crack, like, oh, what a strange mix. It's a strange mix, but it's a truly delicious, I would say they call it a cookie. Some people will call it a candy.
Yeah, I think
it's very, very tasty. And particularly the grandkids love this particular, I've made it with graham crackers in the past. And I have made it once, and I've had it made with the saltines. It seems like salted chocolate is such an in thing right now. So, all right. The reason I chose to do this one first is that you have to be with it all the time. It takes about 5 minutes to get it to the temperature and about 5 minutes to cool. In the meantime, as soon as it's cooling, I'm going to show you the box that I packed my cookies in. And you'll see it's such a nice, easy trick to have if you need to send something as part of a Christmas gift. And if you don't, these freeze beautifully, they store beautifully. You could store these for a couple of weeks in a cookie tin or in a plastic bag.
Or you can give them to your friends.
Or give them to your friends, like people who come and help you with your technology at your house. Absolutely. So, all right, we're getting this. It's not getting brown just yet. All right. Stirring it in one direction keeps the butter from, of course, separating. I am now going to, all right, it's getting brown. The toffee is occurring. And that, by the way, was just white sugar. Sometimes I've seen this recipe for crack using brown sugar, but this one was white, and I think that's the only thing I've ever used. You can probably tell this is getting brown. Can you see it? I hope you can.
I think she has everyone off.
Okay. Okay. There's a temptation.
I'm just gonna
It's not a
request
time.
that, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just gonna request that
Yeah.
everyone that isn't speaking, i.e. that isn't Sandra or Pat, to please go on mute, because I'm not able to put everyone on mute for some reason. Okay, now I'm muting again.
Okay.
Any questions at this point? You can see,
Well, they're on mute.
oh, they're on mute.
Yeah, they're on
Okay.
mute, so they can't. But you can see that it's getting brown.
They can raise their hand and Suzanne can call on them as they show up. They can raise their hand right down by where you can mute. It's called reactions.
Right, I haven't actually gone over that with everyone, but you can
Oh, okay.
unmute and speak if you want to ask a question. EML, I'm not able to mute you. If you can mute yourself if you're not asking a question. I think it's Lang. Okay, I'm muting.
All right, we're almost there. You can see how dark it's getting, almost toffee-like. All right, now I'm gonna take this off the heat. All right, I'm pouring this now over the graham crackers. You notice I've used a pan that would not tend to stick. All right, let's get this toffee going here. I find many cookie baking pans, there's various sizes, and this I would say, not the largest, but it is a large one. So we're gonna get a layer, but it's just going to just cover. I found using graham crackers better, and that graham crackers don't tend to move around in the pan as the saltines do. You never to try something first for company. How about try something first for video of cooking online? But that's all right. We've all had
We
that.
get the idea.
You get the idea. All right. So now we've got the amber on there. Cool for 5 minutes, and then you pat in the peanut butter. I've got the peanut butter, 1 cup, all here. All right. It said just put it in gobs and it's going to melt. It's going to spread. Okay, stir in one direction. The one thing that didn't happen is the butter and the sugar didn't separate. So that was a good lesson for me to learn. And it's not something I've ever read before in making a toffee. All right, now we're gonna kind of gob, and it's smooth peanut butter. They didn't want any chunky. The chunky, the nut quality, there's a few peanuts that I ground up, and that goes at the very end on top of the chocolate. So really, this is very similar to it's a cookie, but with peanut butter, chocolate, peanuts, and toffee.
It's a candy cookie.
It's a candy cookie is right. Remember all that protein you're getting from it.
Ooh, can't wait to taste these.
For those who love their peanut butter and chocolate together and a salty quality with a little bit of crunch, this is something that you may want to make. The reason I chose this is, number one, we had plenty of peanut butter around, but it's also something that I believe, well, I know it'll ship nicely, it'll store nicely, and it's a little different than your usual butter cookie. We're going to get to those. We're going to get to shortbreads shortly. All right. A little more peanut butter here in my cup. I find this, when I measure peanut butter out, I always wet my measuring cup. It usually comes out easier, so you get it all.
Good tip.
Yeah. You can tell all those parents who say, something candy? Yeah, it's not candy, or I'm serving candy, but just think how healthy this candy is. All right, here we go. Peanut butter's on. Next thing is, I'm gonna put this in the oven with the chocolate. I've got the chocolate all measured here for the chocolate to melt. This is 2 cups of chocolate bits. And that's gonna totally cover this dish. That's if I don't put too many in my stove. You don't have to worry about it not, because you're gonna put this in the oven for a few minutes. They'll melt, and then we'll kind of spread it around. Pop a few ground up peanuts in it. It's in there. Now we've got 5 minutes. I know Mrs. Kelly here always uses her timer. I don't. I often determine something's done by the smell. Sometimes that smell is not what you want, like it's burnt.
Yeah, like it's burnt.
Yeah, exactly.
Tom, can you time this 5 minutes, please?
All right. By the way, I talked about boxes and sorting yesterday in preparation for this today. I made some shortbreads, which we're going to make, but they won't be out of the oven before we have ended. So I just wanted to show you a dish of shortbread. These were a little different than usual in that when I took them out of the oven yesterday, and and we'll talk more about making the shortbread when we make it shortly. I cut them in, you cut it down your pan on a diagonal, then you go back, and these I make diagonal squares. And when I got finished, we tasted the cookie, and it really didn't have much of a sweetness flavor to it. So I had a few leftover white chocolate chips. So I put them on top, but prior to doing that, I had, when you buy a Walker shortbread or any kind of shortbread, they often have the forked tines in it. So it covered this up. This is about a third of what I did. I did a small pan of them yesterday, just to show you what they might look like.
Can we just lower that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll try one of these.
Oh,
I'll let
yes.
the audience know.
Yes. And this many will fit very nicely in a package, just like this. This was in the package and I took it out. This is another package of the same shortbread. And the reason I like shortbread is just what I said before. It was important for me to be able to ship things, to keep them for a week or two. And this, you don't have to put, when we get to doing shortbread, we're gonna just do shortbread without any kind of frost. It's very pretty. These weren't as pretty, but take a look at this. This is the box, the priority mail box that I use to send cookies. It's going to be for a number of people in our family who live far away, who I want to send a little bit more than just a Christmas card And these boxes, with all the mailing and everything's done for you, are $9. I just take these. Tom picked up a few for me today, 4 more. You can see, you stick it in this box, close it up, easy peasy. It even has a strip here. You just take the strip off, close your box up, and here you have a mailbox with a lovely Christmas type of cookie. We're going to be doing 4 different cookies that I think will ship very well. And these boxes, unlike your usual, they may even be a little more. Maybe it's more expensive than $9 to ship a box of cookies. But I think it's worth the convenience and the speed at which I find these priority mail boxes get. And there are piles of them at the post office. You just take the box home and you don't pay anything until you bring your cookies in. Another cookie that I made yesterday, because I have a few that I want to get shipped out to some of the grandkids for exam week coming up. Another one is I made a batch, which I frequently do, of chocolate chip dough. And when I make chocolate chip dough, I happen to love the one on any recipe. We all make chocolate chip cookies. I just put them in a 9x13 Pyrex, spread the whole thing out. It makes the process go by so quickly. Just pat it down, bake them, but I bake them for 25 minutes easily. 25 as opposed to a 15-minute chocolate chip cookie because it's one big mass. Took it out. This is 1/3 of one chocolate chip recipe. And you can see how, here's a package of the chocolate chip. They're a little thicker than the other cookies. This package, again, it's heavy. It's terrific. It goes in a package like this. And you know, today when I was fussing around with showing you the package, the shortbread are very thin. These are, of course, much thicker. I was able to actually put 2 packages. It's important, however, when you're going to ship cookies, that you use triple wrap of regular tin foil or heavy duty, and make sure it's very well wrapped. I sent a package of these also to the same grandson in Nebraska because it was his birthday. I was surprised I didn't hear from him, because when I ship cookies, I could send hundreds of dollars. I don't. But if I send cookies with $2 in the thing, they call, or $10, or however, they call to thank me for the cookies. And they tell me how popular their relationship is with the roommates on the floor. So anyway, here's another cookie, and every cookie we're making today, if you want to think of this as a small batch to ship, this is a great way to remember someone. All right, enough of that. How are we doing with the timing here, Tom?
Right now,
Okay. See, I didn't need a timer.
no, you are good.
Well, you know, it catches me once in a while. All right. Here we are. Now, what I'm going to do is take what they call, there's a special name for spatula, and I can't remember what they called it. Something back spatula. This chocolate will melt all over the top. If possible, sometimes want to put a few more on. And this will all harden. And I ground up 1/4 cup of, the only thing I had was honey roasted peanuts to sprinkle on the top. You put the peanuts on the top here, put it in the fridge to harden, to totally harden. The chocolate does a lot to get that really accomplished. And then you break them into cookies. I try to, if possible, cut them into maybe the size of the square of the saltines. So I thought this was an easy thing to make because it ships well. It's a little decadent, to say the least. And it used up 1 cup of the probably 8 cups of peanut butter that are in those 3 jars that were left behind. And here we are. Now I've got some, I always do this, done. Here's the, my blender. Just do the- This could be a fun cookie, except for the heat of the coffee, to make with kids. They called for 1/4 cup. I probably would have done more on my own. And there is peanut Christmas crack, all ready to be cut and sent or given as a gift or taken to a cookie exchange, you name it.
Ooh, I wish you could smell that melted chocolate
Yeah.
and
That's it.
caramel.
All right, this is going in the refrige so we can get started with the next cookie.
So that Sandra could taste some before she leaves.
Yes, yes, all right. I didn't plan for putting it in, so here. The next cookie I'm gonna make is because I have a lot of pecans around. So we're gonna make 2 things. Pecan snowballs, where are my cookies?
Right over here, Pep.
Okay. All right. Cookies have been put to chill, and let's now do shortbread. I use the shortbread recipe that I've been using for years, and I have a daughter who, when she was in college, made this cookbook, Doyle Delights, 54 pages of some of our family's favorites. It was a surprise gift. I really loved getting it, but the one that leads out the cookies is shortbread, and it's only got 4 ingredients. I know if you go online and look up shortbread, or if you've made it yourself, you may make smaller amounts. I start out, mine is made with 1 pound of butter, softened. It's soft. 4 cups of flour. And then I'm gonna just break this whole thing up with my hand and then put it in a large cookie sheet, which I have put parchment on. Let me get the sugar. Here we are, 2 cups. You know, I've never necessarily used confectionery sugar, but I always look at other recipes when I'm making something that, and many of them did emphasize using confectionery sugar in your shortbread. So 2 cups of sugar. The batch I made last night, Sandra just tasted, was not made with confectionery sugar. And how was it, Sandra?
Delicious.
So I'm gonna use the confectionery just because I'm curious. As
I
to-
might have to have another one.
Oh, great, yes. 2 cups, it's a little less than 2, fine. All right, and a teaspoon of vanilla. Put that out. Right here. Now, how I'm gonna break this up. This is gonna be done, by the way, with my hands. I'm going to put a teaspoon of vanilla on there, which I probably should have moved my hands a lot here. I like making shortbread, especially at Christmas time. It's pretty when you cut it into triangles or into diamond shapes, but also this is almost like making pie crust for me. And the butter is not quite as soft. You can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna work it until it's all in just this. If you are making a pie crust, I do have here to my right my mixer, and I may use it. I call that cheating I think I will use it though, because it'll all come together. The other way I've made it with my food processor. I just stick everything in the food processor and it'll get to where I want it to be. As soon as it's all crumbly, see the pan right here? I will put it all on the pan, pat it out. I don't do anything but try to get it even in the pan. That's it. Give it 20 minutes at 300, which reminds me, I had the oven at 350 before. Let me get it down to 300. The shortbread cooks at a lower oven temperature than other cookies do. Have I made the mistake of putting it in at 350? Yes. I am going to use my hand mixer on this just to speed it up. Now I'm going to tell you what I did wrong. I told you I always use the granulated sugar. I did not sift this confectionery sugar. It didn't tell me to, but I think it's fine. You'll see there's some little tiny pieces of the confectionery sugar in here. And I'll work it just a little bit more with my hands. Sandy, you want to just show them how, I guess you have. Here, I'll bring it over. That's it. And in 5 minutes, you've made enough dough. You can see some of, and I'm breaking them down little by little here. The larger piece.
So you want to make sure you sift your confectionery
Sift the
sugar because
confectionery
it does have a tendency to
Especially when you get the
harden
bigger,
up on you.
the bigger bags
Yeah,
of it
yeah.
rather than the box. I know that I've not always, when I've made frosting, I don't generally do it, but had I looked more closely, I would have. So you'll get little elements of sweetness in these cookies. It's interesting the cost of making something that tastes so much better. This afternoon, I was placing an order at Vermont Country Home, and it was a clothing thing, but they had some of the food items, and it was two small containers of the shortbread were $17.98. Here, you're going to be making at least 4 times that amount, and the cost is probably maximum $4 for you to make it. And it's so easy. It's not like it's a difficult, and it's also something that lasts a long time. You can either freeze it if you're going to be keeping it for more than a couple of weeks, and this doesn't even have to be refrigerated. This is shortbread, and I think the trick of it is after it's all mixed, and most of those little pieces of confectionery sugar have broken up. They've had to deal with me in here. So I'm going to just take it now, dump the whole thing. Go. Because it'll all come together as one big shortbread bar here, and we're going to take it out right, probably just as it's in, and I'll show you how. I never use parchment regularly. Now I cannot live without parchment. I think it just helps you never, you can see some of my little pieces of confectionery sugar. So next time I do it, I'm going to sift it, but I don't think in any way it will detract from You might have a little spring of sweetness as you're eating a piece, possibly, if it doesn't melt in the process, which I don't think it would, which is not good. All right, so here I have a very large cookie tray, probably a quarter larger than many. So these will be, but I make my shortbread in here all the time. And this is it, which all you have to do is just flatten it with your hand. And try to slam those little pieces of confectionery. And I'm gonna be curious to see. The other thing in making it that I probably would do, since I knew I was gonna use the mixer, is I would cream the butter. And in so doing, I would add that 1 teaspoon of vanilla at that point also, rather than putting it in. I was too busy trying to think, how can I show them you can make a whole thing of cookies in 5 minutes? And this is probably one of the fastest, easiest Christmas cookies to make. And they do look very nice. One of the things I've had friends bring shortbread, they dipped the end of the diamond in some melted chocolate. There's different things you can do to kind of jazz it up. Or sprinkle the top with baking sugar. It gives it a kind of a sparkle. That's it, we're ready.
So that just goes in the oven now?
20 minutes.
That's it?
And
Wow,
just
that's a quick
before-
cookie.
It's a great big cookie. 20 minutes, when it's just beginning to brown, I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna take my fork and I'll show you, in case we're not here to do it.
You're gonna make little
Yeah.
indentations with that.
Here's what I do when it's like 5 minutes before being slightly golden. I'll take it out of the oven. It'll be kind of wet on the top. I'll take a fork and I will do this all over it. Now, of course, those fork holes, because it's not baked yet, won't hold. This will make at least 80 to 90 cookies.
With just 1 pound of butter, correct?
1 pound of butter,
Wow, and
2 cups of sugar,
sifted
sifted
confectionery sugar.
Yes, a teaspoon of vanilla,
Vanilla.
and 2 cups. And I did go light on the, I like shortbread that tastes like shortbread, and it's not a sweet cookie. All right, the oven's at 300. All right, last cookie, a one that adults tend to like. Adults in our family do, and that is the Pecan Snowballs. And that, well, I've got the mess over here. That is another very simple, very similar to the shortbread in some ways. It's half a pound of sweet butter, and I did use the sweet butter. Let me find my recipe just to make sure I know where it is. It's on my phone. I don't know how many of you ever go to and get a recipe on your phone, and then this is a very simple recipe, but I just want to make sure. It's 2 cups of ground up pecans, and it tells you to do them very fine. So you can see, I put 2 cups, those are my pecans. This is also confectionery sugar. See this? It's my sifter. I'm not gonna forget the sifting this time.
She learned by her goof.
I did,
Okay.
but I don't think it's going to hurt the cookie.
Okay, confectionery sugar's over here.
Right over
Karen,
here.
head for it.
And again, you know, I don't use these sugars a great deal, and so when sugar sits, especially like this, I do think I have a box of sugar in here, and just to prove my point, I believe that this is Domino powdered cane sugar in the box, and this is in the bag from Costco or one of those stores. It's very lumpy. I'm curious, I think this one in the box, what a difference. Here, Sandra,
No, yeah. You
what a
can.
difference.
Yep.
So it really, I'll just use.
So
it
so what do we do? Buy the big bag, sift it and put it in
And
the
sift it.
box?
Because if you buy the big bags, it costs you about half the price
I know.
that
Yeah.
this 1 pound box does, but we don't have to be embarrassed by having our, having goofed here. All right, half a pound of sugar, half a cup of sugar. I'm gonna sift it even though it's from the box.
Are you putting that in the 2 cups of pecans? Is
Yeah,
that-
I'm
oh, okay.
putting that in the 2 cups of sweet butter. And see, it.
Oh,
see
sweet
it.
butter,
Okay.
sweet butter, that's right.
It, even this sugar needs to be sifted. And by the way, most often, things that call for, in cookies especially, confectionery versus granulated, I don't think it is going to ruin it by switching. Of course, if it's powdered sugar for frosting making or sweet topping, yes, so that's all done. I'm going to heat this up. But they tell you always creaming, do it for a couple minutes. Give it a nice, like, the reason I use only half a cup of sugar in this is, remember, these are rolled in confectionery sugar twice. So when they first come out of the oven, you're gonna roll them in the sugar and let them sit, and then roll them again, where they'll pick up even more. So there's very little sugar in the first dough. Now the flour, 2 cups. Thought I had this flour ready. No. I'm sure I did, and the pecans are there. Let me look up this recipe and make sure I have it all correct, and I'll get the flour out with the pecans. The pecans and the flour are to be added little bits at a time. Okay. All right, here we are. Recipe. Okay, shortbread, pecan snowball cookies. And that recipe, by the way, is on a blog called Southern Bites. And of course, we have to wait for all of the, here we are. Recipe comes right up. It again is a 5-minute preparation for this cookie, for the baking. And then of course you roll it in the sugar. It makes, this recipe we're now making makes 48 cookies, 1 cup of unsalted butter, cup of powdered sugar. I didn't put that much in because I know it's going to be very sweet in the rolling. The vanilla extract, because I used the unsweetened butter, the sweet butter, I need to put in 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt.
Salt over here, Pam. There's your salt.
Oh, okay. Again, here's my 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, 2 cups of white flour, white all-purpose flour, and 1 1/4 cups of chopped pecans. All right. This is it. Where's the flour?
John, we need flour.
Flour for this. Just bring, I thought I had everything out that I needed, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just bring up the big bag. Oh, great, white. All right, I'm gonna start with the first half cup of flour with about 1/4 of the pecans. Very slowly mix those together. All right, let's put the, I'll put the rest of the pecans in here. I see I have one full. Then when the flour comes up, we'll do the rest of the flour and then put these in balls. Okay. Perfect.
This is what live programming is all about.
Yes. And we can take a lot. Buy
Oh,
our flour in
looks familiar to me.
25-pound bags. And you could, this week has been a big baking week here. I think we just filled this, didn't we, Tom? Okay, I put 1/4, I put a 1/2 cup in, so I need a. That's it. You know, a lot of people think that we perhaps not do things perfectly. Baking is very predictable. Couple of words on using pecans. Pecans, of all the nuts, go bad. I got the pecans brought to us by a visitor here on the island who has a home, whose mother has a home in Arkansas, and they have a pecan farm. So she brought a huge bag, and I don't use a lot of them. I did used to when I made the pecan sticky buns at the market, but I froze that bag because you have to be really careful if you're buying a big bag that you use it fairly quickly. So.
Well, can you freeze them?
Oh, they freeze very nicely.
Okay.
I try to.
So
freeze
if you're not using them
if you're not
quickly, you
using
can
them, yes.
put them in the freezer. Okay.
Walnuts are not, don't go rancid, plus we use a lot of walnuts here, which we eat. The pecans, other than this particular cookie, and I offered today for a friend's brunch this season to make pecan sticky buns, just to use up pecans.
Oh, I hope I'm going to that brunch.
I think you are. All right, here, let me take a quick look at the shortbread. Nowhere near. It's getting there. How long is it take?
You didn't set the timer, Pat.
I-
I'm gonna guesstimate 12 minutes.
Oh, that's very good, very good. We'll tell. All right, here is the pan I'm gonna use for the pecan, for the snowballs. But we're not gonna be able to show you after they've baked. They take about 18 minutes. And you wait until they just begin to brown on the bottom, unless you'd prefer to have one that was a little bit more well done. I flour my hands. And the recipe calls for, I have a little more flour here too.
I love it.
Now,
It's a great way to bake.
it is,
It's a great way to bake.
you know, if it doesn't quite come out the way you want it, you call it something else when you serve it. You call them pecan discs if they aren't snowballs. Or, I'm trying to think, Tom will probably remember something that it just didn't come out as I wanted it, so I called it something else and it has become a favorite recipe. So sometimes your mistakes, I don't think we have a mistake here.
By the way, earlier, we're talking about the name of the spatula. It's an offset spatula.
Offset spatula,
When
right,
you were trying to spread the chocolate,
right. With that.
it just came to me
Yeah, and why is it called offset?
because of the way it's styled. It's not straight. It has a little bend into it. No, it does,
All right,
that's
so the
not.
one I used over here.
Yeah, no, I'll show you. No,
No,
that's
okay,
not it.
all right.
I
Now,
have one. I'll show it to you.
it says to use these to try to get them even, and if you have a scoop, it's a 1 tablespoon scoop. I think you can kind of tell. I'm not gonna scoop them all. It feels right to me. And that's what we've got. So what we've done, we didn't make the chocolate chip cookie. I used that to demonstrate a great cookie for shipping and for the holidays. I wanted to show, and I kept them all together. I didn't put them nice. You can see it's got a nice chocolate center. This is just out. Just break it off. It's a great cookie if you're sending to family with kids. I asked my grandkids for
I'm
Thanksgiving.
going to taste this one,
Absolutely.
just to let you know how it is.
It's been sitting there for a long time, so it's a simple, easy, popular cookie.
Mhm.
All right, now, while we're doing this, if anybody has any questions, if you followed it's been not even an hour because we got on late. We made 3 different types of cookies and without a lot of special types of ingredients, except maybe pecans, if you don't have those on hand. You would probably need about a 6-ounce bag of pecans to make this recipe. I was using pecans that were in a much larger, so. And you know what? I realized I was dreading doing this today because there's so much going on in the family and travels and Thanksgiving. We just had everyone, but it was great because now I've got 3, 4 cookies all at the ready to put in packages to either bring to the homes we're going to be visiting. I'm not going to use those mailer things, but also to send to a few very special people. And I like having something like that in the freezer. I will put them all in the freezer if I'm not going to be sending them right.
My post office box is 957.
Oh, okay. Did everybody hear that?
1082 Mohegan Trail if you want to deliver.
I do deliver cookies every now and again. You know, I know Pat Kelly loves, I think, my lemon bars.
Absolutely.
And I thought, oh, can I make the lemon bars? But that's not a cookie that packs easily, ships easily. It's not a traditional Christmas cookie. So we've got a lot of cookies here to get us through the holidays. In fact, my husband loves cookies, and I started packing them all up. I didn't leave much for him for cookies. I will take them out, but it was good for me. This is the first time I'm really focusing on the shipping because we're not going to see a number of families whose kids are going to all be home from school and college, and kids, the teen years, it's hard for us to get gifts that they like. So you send them money, you send them a little money and a lot of cookies. They love it. With their parents, we occasionally will send a cheese or 2. And I don't have to leave the island for any of that. So if you have any questions during the week and you're making any of these, give me a call. I'd be happy to give you any updates. Now, before I talk anymore, I'm gonna look at these cookies in here.
What's down below? Is that dinner tonight?
That's dinner tonight, that I had to, because I had to use up the, all right, my shortbread is ready to be forked. Come on over here, Sandra. Oh, it's still actually not, but you can see how they hold the fork holes. Now this will go
Well,
back probably for another 10 minutes. And you can see there are a few little pieces of confectionery sugar. At least it's not baking soda. Yuck.
Thankful for that.
Or flour. It's just a little bit more.
A little sweet bite.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe I created something new. You never know. So I'm gonna just do these, put them back in the oven. They'll come out a bit browner. And then when I go to cut them, I'll let them sit for about 10 minutes. I'll take a knife and I'll go starting up at the corner here on the diagonal. And depending on how large, I always end up, it seems, with the same size, which is right here. These were made in a half of this size pan, and there were 3 recipes of these in a half of this. So I would say about 5 times as many as these can come out of a tray like this. I don't know what that number is. I think it's about 90. When we travel as a family, everybody loves shortbread. And as we leave the country, wherever it is, we want to bring something home. And the kids say, I'm going to just go get a couple of boxes of shortbread, Walker's shortbread, to bring to my friends or to just have around the house. So next time I'm not going to let them buy them. I'll just say, wait a minute, let's just go home and make them. But it's not the same as Walker's. And I was with someone this morning who talked about her mother having the most wonderful shortbread recipe. But you know, no matter what the recipe is, it's going to be the same thing: butter, sugar, flour, little flavoring, and you're done. And you want them, I like them crispy. So I will let my shortbread go back in the oven now and bake until they're really kind of light brown around the edge. All right. And I'm going to put the snowballs in the oven before we end. I'd love to tell you that I'll leave little bags of these cookies on the front porch for you to stop by tomorrow. Anybody who wants a taste, come by. Or make your own. Bon appetit. Now, any questions?
Anyone that has a question, just unmute.
Oh, that's tonight's dinner, huh?
That's tonight's dinner. All right. I know that when the cookie exchanges occur, or the donation of cookies for the senior program to deliver cookies, you can make some of these or some of your own creations. It's always nice to have a cookie that you've never done or you've never had. But thank you for listening and for supporting the library and the senior program. Take care. And
Thank you so
Merry
much,
Christmas to
Pat.
all.
Thanks everyone
You're
for
welcome.
coming. See you next time.
Okay.